Hello, everyone. My name is Patrice Power, and I am the Marketing Director for Calix Software. Welcome to the Calix Software and Fannie Mae UCD webinar. Thank you so much for your interest and for taking time to join us today on this really important topic for your business. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to personally invite each and every one of you to attend our upcoming National User Conference, Calix Vision 18. I'm sure you've been seeing it in Tuesday Tips, as well as getting emails regarding it. It's going to be held February 11 through 14, 2018 in San Francisco. It's going to be a wonderful educational as well as networking opportunity. So I'd encourage you to visit calixvision.com to learn more about the conference and the benefits for you and your business. So turning to our webinar today, the information presented is confidential and proprietary to Calix. Is everyone seeing the screen? Jenny, I'm not seeing the screen yet. So during the presentation, everyone will be on mute. Please feel free, however, here we go. So please feel free to enter any questions that come to mind in the questions area that you see to the right of your screen. And we have these locations circled here where you can enter your questions. As time permits, we will have Q&A at the end of the webinar, both from a Fannie Mae as well as from a point perspective, those types of questions. If your question is not answered during our time together, then we will send a follow-up email with responses. So today, we will be covering preparing a loan file for UCD, exporting data to the UCD, resolving common error messages, and we'll have a Q&A with Fannie Mae. So our presenters today include two key folks. The first is Ryan Schnurr, who is a professional services consultant with Calix. And Ryan has been a top producer in the mortgage industry for more than 15 years. He works directly with Calix customers, both on-site and online, to help ensure optimal software configurations and to also train customer staff based on their specific needs. His deep experience in all phases of mortgage origination and leadership skills make Ryan a key contributor to the Calix family. Beth Payne is our second presenter, and she is a senior business architect and subject matter expert on Fannie Mae's Uniform Closing Disclosure, the UCD team. Betsy joined Fannie in 2010. Since then, she's served as product development manager and as a key contributor on the implementation of the UCD and ULDD Phase 1. Betsy then worked on the loan delivery redesign and ULDD Phase 2 until June of 15, when she made a move to the UCD team where she is today. So we are delighted that you are all here, and now I will turn it over to Ryan so that he can show you how UCD is working in Point. Ryan?
Thank you, Patrice. Let me get my screen up here for you guys here. 1 second. Here we go. All right. Guys, I'm going to walk you kind of through here, making sure that all the necessary fields are completed for the UCD. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a file that I've got going for you guys right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go over to our closing disclosure, and we're going to go to page 3. There's a few screens in here that I want to make sure that the fields are filled in so that you guys are familiar with what's going to carry over for the UCD export. Okay, so looking at page 3, I'm going to kind of scroll down from the calculating the cash to close. We're going to come down to the summaries of transaction section. And what I'm going to focus on here for the moment will be the borrower's transaction side of this form. So right here, our name section, if we were to have anything plugged in to this field, that will carry over. That's going to be the name of the entity for any of these items that we might be paying off at closing. So the name will carry over, and then any of the adjustments that we have plugged in here with the dollar amounts, any of the POCs will carry over on your UCD export on there. Next, I'm going to scroll down to section L, which is our prepaid or paid already on behalf of the borrowers at closing section. Our types on here, our different types, our closing adjustments or liability section, that will carry over, as well as any other credits right here. Who is it being paid by? So these fields showing any other credits that may be listed on the closing disclosure here, whoever's paying that by for the credits as well as the adjustments down here. So these sections right here, all the way to our POCs, those will carry over on the borrower's transaction. When we are looking at the seller's transaction, same kind of idea over here. Your POCs all over here for any of your seller fees that they're covering, that they're showing on here. So POCs will carry over, as well as when I scroll down here below section N, seller credits. We've got a couple of different drop-down items in here. Of course, guys, like any of our other fields, that just because we have items in our drop-downs doesn't mean you cannot manually type information in those fields. So the types, again, closing adjustments and liabilities, those two items will carry over for you for the UCD export. Now, just kind of a quick note, it is not necessary for you guys to complete the UCD fields on page 3 of the closing disclosure for refinance loans that use the alternative form. So this is all based off of the standard form for the closing disclosure that I'm showing you guys right now. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go click on the tab in the top corner. Let me see, where am I at here? I need to go back over here to my closing disclosure, and I'm going to come down to our payoffs and payments. There we go. And in the top right corner, I've got my copy from liability section. So from here, I want to go ahead and click the button. And I don't know that I have any of my liabilities set in here to be paid off at the moment. But if I did, I would have things like my student loans in here, my closing adjustments. Let's see here, that's actually a liability in there. And then maybe it's the U.S. Department of Education, let's say, U.S. Department of Education, and maybe the dollar amount is $9,500 is being paid off, and there might be a prepayment penalty, okay, when you pay some of these items off early. Now, again, you saw I had to go ahead and manually enter some of this information if it doesn't carry over from the liabilities, if I don't have it marked on the liability section. So the data from the prepayment penalties section here, these will actually, and the associated liability type, which is right here under the types, these will be exported over for the UCD export, okay? So now what we're going to do from here, so we've got those items, we're going to go ahead and scroll up to the top of our screen. We've got the eLoan file, which is going to take us now to our additional data on here. And in the middle of the page right here, you'll see QM, okay? So some of this information in here may have to be entered manually for you. Okay, you can see I've got a lot of this information carried over from a QM that I ran earlier on this file. And we want to make sure that any of our loan price quoted in there is going to be filled in. Let's see here, our APOR is going to be filled in here. It's important to have this filled in right here, because there is a possibility that you could receive an error message if this field is not completed over here. The points and fees threshold, that actually carries over from your closing cost worksheet on there. Ability to repay in there, and safe harbor thresholds as well. All these information will carry over. Now, one thing I do want to point out to you guys here on the ability to repay method. Okay, so the GSEs do not accept QM as an ability to repay option like I've got in here right now. So you guys will need to check either exempt or general on here. And then that way, you guys will not get any error messages on there. So, and all of this QM data will be exported and included with that UCD export on there for you guys. Let's see. So from there, I'm going to scroll up to the top again. I'm going to go to track. And when I go to my track, I want to go down to my agent list on here. Okay. There's a couple of screens that, couple of fields on this screen that need to be filled in. Your license authority for the lender or the authority URL, okay, on there. And if it is a broker, we've got license authority and authority URL to be completed as well. Now, the license authority, if applicable, you're also going to be looking at real estate brokers down here. We've got them set up here for both the buyer and the seller, as well as the closing agent, as we scroll down the screen here a little bit more. Okay. We want to make sure we scroll down to our seller, which is right below this area. You guys will notice that there's some new fields in point right here. The property seller is an individual or a legal entity. You'll want to make sure that we click one of those items. If they are a legal entity, we need to type in the name of the legal entity that they are. So if it's an actual broker shop that is the seller and not an individual, we'd want to put the name of the broker shop right here for you. Okay, so we've got this information all plugged in exactly where we need to plug it in. And from here, what we want to do is we want to go back up to the very top of the screen. We're going to go back to our eLoan file up here. And this time we're going to go to our document management tool on here. Another way to get to the loan document management tool is your little file cabinet underneath the word banker up here. Okay. Now you'll see I've got a few items already in here. Let me remove those right quick. I know most people don't have access to deleting those, but you really don't want to delete anything in your document management tool. Make sure you mark it as inactive to hide it on there from everybody. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and add our closing disclosure in here and store it as a file. So let me come over to add right here in the middle. We're going to add from a point file in our point forms. So it'll bring us over to our main forms over here. So let me go over to forms, and we want to scroll down till we find our closing disclosures. We're going to click 1, 2, 3, 4, and page 5 on here. And our output option, we want to click as store right here, okay? And the other big thing we want to do is we want to make sure we click the box for store as one file, okay? Then here, our output option choice is store. It's got a little file cabinet on there. I'm going to go ahead and click on store. It's going to pull up the document for me. And we want to name the file over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say closing disclosure, okay? Let's go ahead and click on OK. Let me close that off there because we don't need that on there. And let's close that out. Okay, it's not going to close out at the moment. Let's have this here. All right, so one of the things you're going to notice is that if I try to save right now and click add, I'm going to get an error message that says a type of required field is required, okay? That's up here in the top right and left corner, or right corner. but I don't want to just choose a type, because if I choose here, there's nothing in there. What I need to do is I need to choose a category. Well, I'm going to come over to my closing section, and I'm going to come down and look for what type of closing disclosure is this. Is it a closing disclosure that's an alternative form? Is it a borrower only? Or is it a standard form? Okay. This is very important to keep any additional error messages from populating here later on for this. Okay. It needs to say closing disclosure, :space, standard, or borrower only, or alternative in this section. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to have a difficult time on exporting the file. Now, not only from there, we want to also come over to our borrower over here, okay? And here, I've got my borrower. Try again. I'm going to say that they signed this document digitally, because that's what I had them do, and send it back to me. And I am going to choose my date, and let's say today's date is 9/20/2017. And now I'm going to click Add on here. So now it's going to populate into our system. There is our closing disclosure standard. Our description is our closing disclosure. You can see it's a point generated form, and I'm the one who uploaded it here for us. Okay, so from there, there's another item that I want to point out to you guys that we need to make sure that we cover, okay? And that is on our banker screens, because we're not necessarily all the ready to upload everything. So I'm going to go banker underwriting, and from the banker underwriting screen, we will actually scroll down till we get to our, where'd it go here, automated underwriting section, okay? On the underwriting section, here, if you're running DO or DU, okay, it will auto-populate your run date, your recommendation, and your case number from your DO or DU findings, okay? Now, if you do not run DO or DU, which I did not run on this one because I don't have the ability to run this option right now, but if I were to run it, or if I were not to run it, like I have it blank right now, okay, I export this loan to Fannie's website, okay, and when I upload that UCD, it will assign me a case number, okay? It will not auto-populate here in Point. So you will have to come back into Point and manually type in the number that they give you right here, okay? You do not want to input that information under the case number here. You'll do it on the right-hand side. This will remain blank on this screen for you, okay? So that's where we're going to be there. And then what we want to do is we want to now export the UCD in an XML format, okay? So what we're going to do from here is we're going to go up to the top. We're going to go to our interfaces section, okay? And from there, we're going to go down to our uniform closing data set option, okay? Get rid of this guy over here. All right, so here you can see there's nothing in here. It's blank, okay? I'm going to go ahead and hit the word add in the top left corner. And here is our closing disclosure, okay? If you mistype the closing disclosure : information that's in here, okay, it will not populate and you will not be able to find it. So it does need to be specific here. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the closing disclosure here, and I'm going to hit the word select on there. So now it has populated in here for me, and this should be your final disclosure that's actually being populated in for the UCD, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit the tab that says Export UCD XML, and it will pull up a spot for me to save it. Now you may have a folder that you save it in or something else of that nature. I'm going to go ahead and save it to my desktop, and you'll see that it just automatically saves the file name as UCD on here, okay? What we want to remember to do here is go ahead and type in XML at the end of it for us, okay? When we do this, it will save it as the XML format, and your CD will be uploaded in a PDF format to Fannie's site on there. Okay, so it'll automatically save it as UCD. If you want to rename it, you can, but again, make sure that there's no spacing in anything. So if I didn't have XML in there and I wanted to say try again UCD, make sure you have the .xml, save it just like that. You will not receive any errors on the system. So now it's in progress for us. And from there, we would be able to log into Fannie Mae's website to upload and export the the XML version of our file that we're going in and doing on the system there. So from there, we will take a look at a couple of common errors that are coming out that I've seen so far. And one of the common errors is a number called 3212 that pops up. It says the object encoding type is required and must equal to base 64. That's crazy. I have no idea where that's coming from. That's, you know, what as a client, I need to know what's going on with that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Well, what the cause is of that is that the borrower is not being selected in the doc management window after storing the file. Okay, as soon as this is done in progress, I will take you back to that screen and show you exactly what that's what I'm talking about on there for that. Let's see, let me give this one more second here and see if it'll wrap up for us. Fantastic, there it goes. So again, if I go to my little file cabinet right here, it's going to open up my document management tool. I'm going to come over to my closing disclosure. So this is for error code 3212. It says the borrower is not selected in the doc management section. That's right here. Okay. So if I did not have a borrower in that section and I had saved this, I would get an error message. Okay. So we want to make sure that our borrower, our signature type, and date are plugged in here to avoid that message on there. Now, another message related to this same screen is our document type right here. Okay, so this is 3207. It'll say document type other description is required and must be a valid enumeration. Okay, again, if this says closing disclosure dash standard, it is wrong. Okay, we need to make sure that we are covering that it's set up correctly like this. Right here, I will show you in just a moment where we need to update that. We also have a KB article, KB 5501, on exactly how to add these types into the system. Okay, so if I am, just to show you guys right quick, if I go to my utilities, I'm going to go to my company defaults, and it is under, let me scroll down to document categories, utilities, company defaults, document categories and types. Okay, I'm going to choose my closing disclosure. Well, I'm going to go ahead and double click on that item on there, and right here I've got my closing disclosure standard. So if I were to delete, if I did not have that option in here, and I've got just, I'm starting to look at these items, I'm going to go ahead and hit add. I'm going to go ahead and type in closing disclosure : standard, hit OK. Because I've already got it in there, I have to double check why that's not pulling up in there, but that's what we would want to, oh, it's because I didn't hit OK earlier. So if I cancel closing disclosure, it'll add it back in there for me. It didn't delete it because I didn't hit OK to approve the cancellation on there. So, all right. One of the other error messages that we are getting right now, let me go ahead and clear out of that for us, is the loan purpose or type. So this error message is, what is the error message is 3031. The loan purpose or type is required on here for us. So let me go over to our closing cost worksheet. And it is actually going to be carrying over from our CD, not our closing worksheet, on page 1 on here, right here, our purpose. Okay, so if this is a construction or home equity loan, you will get an error message. Okay, you need to either choose refinance or purchase to not receive the error code 3031 on there. Okay, and then one other error message is our invalid case field ID. Guys, again, that's where I was saying on our case field IDs on here, we want to go to our banker screens, our underwriting screens. Let's go ahead and scroll down to your automated underwriting, and right here, if we run DO or DU, that case file ID will be assigned there for you. If you don't run DO or DU, then when you export it into Fannie or to Fannie's website, they will assign the number and you manually carry it over from there. Okay. So that's kind of setting it up here and getting it ready to export into Fannie's website. I don't have logins to show you guys exactly how to do that for uploading into Fannie's website at the moment. So Betsy, I am going to go ahead and turn this over to you and have you take over from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. Again, my name is Betsy. There's just a couple points that we wanted to give you as reminders for the Fannie Mae system. The Fannie Mae system can be launched through the UCD page via the Fannie Mae website. You must have access to the system before you can proceed. So if you don't have access, you need to request it immediately so we can start for the mandate, which is Monday. There's no change in the mandate. So if you're a Fannie Mae seller, it's really easy to get access. You just go through Technology Manager. Now, if you're a Fannie Mae non-seller, you would need to refer to our documentation, and yep, they have just brought it up for you. This is our web page where all the documentation I'm referring to will be located. So if you're a non-seller and you need to get access to the Fannie Mae system, you would refer to the quick guide for non-seller access. A couple other things that we want to just talk about is with the UCD collection solution, you must upload a XML file. That's the only type of file we accept. You can batch, 10 to 20 XML files together in a zip file. That is also acceptable. Let's see. I saw a few questions about this, but signatures are not required by the GSEs on the closing disclosure. So we've been getting a lot of questions about that. And also just a reminder, the seller data is not required until Q3 of 2018. And also the embedded PDF is not required before April 2018, but we always encourage, if you have it, to go ahead and send us that PDF file. And just to make a note, couple questions we've had on this. You cannot send the PDF separate from the XML file. The PDF file must be embedded in your UCD file. Also, what we have is the transfer function. This is totally optional and is not part of the mandate. So if you're a correspondent working with an aggregator, once you upload your UCD file to the Fannie Mae system, you can transfer the UC data to your aggregator. And once you do that, you will, both of you will be able to see the UCD data. So then the aggregator can pull down the UCD findings report, the PDF if it was included in the XML file. Let's see. Oh, just a note, while you're testing, you're going to, if you're not getting a successful match on your DU case file, you're going to want to make sure that you're in the right environment. We're getting a lot of questions around that, you know, the UCD solution is pointing to the DU production environment, so you're going to want to make sure that you're not in any kind of integration environment. Okay, and then finally, I just wanted to review some of our resources. So on this page, you can see right there, we've got our quick guide. So there is a quick guide for the relationships and the UCD transfer. So if you decide that you are going to use that function, those are very helpful. We also have a quick guide on the case file ID. So if you're not sure what to do or when to send it, that gives you lots of scenarios in there. And then of course we have the full user guide for the solution. We also have an online e-learning for the system that you can take and watch the tutorial. And then if you are a non-seller, we do have a couple of resources for you. Specifically, we have the UCD toolkit. It kind of, you know, gives you your steps on what you need to do to be ready for the mandate. And then here is the access for UCD for non-sellers. So if you are a non-seller, that is the document that you're going to want to look at. And then finally, under technical resources, I think what you're gonna use most would be this UCD feedback messages. That's gonna have a list of all of our edits and the severity. Other than that, I think, Patrice, did we want to open it up for questions?
Yes, please. We do have a number of questions, both for Ryan and for Betsy. So we have a number of them, Betsy, that are around authority, licensing. What's an example of licensing authority for a lender? And I believe you have some resources that you can point them to around licensing.
Yes, so we definitely, you would want to look at our joint FAQs. Now that is going to be on a different page. That's going to actually be on the uniform closing data set page, and all the information on that page is joint with Freddie Mac. So you're going to want to look at that. But I can tell you in general, you know, lenders and brokers must have the NMLS identifiers. And, you know, we recognize that not all states require these licenses. So if you refer back to Appendix I, which is a specification, those data points are now optional. So you're going to want to make sure that you review that. So the data is optional, but you must send it in for the lender and if you're using a broker.
Great. So there's also a question regarding, let's see, for Betsy, what is the difference between exempt and general under the ATR method?
So unfortunately, I am not able to answer that question. You would need to go to somebody in your legal department within your company, and they can handle that for you. That gets right into the reg and TRID and all that. So I'm unfortunately unable to answer that for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Ryan, we have a question for you. What do you do if there are multiple payoffs? Do you use the payoff and payment tab to enter all, or do you enter partial information on the one line provided on page 3 of the CD?
We will actually go, there is on the banker and basic loan information at the bottom, there's a tab for payoffs, and there's lien payoffs. We can actually plug in the information in there.
Okay. All righty, excellent.
Patrice, if I could just go back to the licensing information.
Yes,
also,
please.
if you want to refer to the implementation guide, I believe it's Appendix E on our on the joint page. That implementation guide is really good because it really gives you like the step-by-step of each section of the form, and I believe there is a lot of information on that on the licensing and especially how it's supposed to be in the XML.
Okay, great. So Ryan, we have a question. We run QM through Calix and none of this information pre-fills. How do we get it to do that?
Actually, on the QM right now, guys, we are working on a KB article that we are putting together that will walk you guys through the entire steps of running QM correctly in Point. So we're actually in the process of that, and we should have that out here very shortly for everybody.
Okay. So here's a question. If we are running DULP through our investor, what's the best way to enter case file ID? We run it on their website, not direct.
Okay, if you are receiving a copy of the DU findings, then the case file, it actually says case file number on the findings. So if you are going to be able to access those findings, you may have to ask your lender for that case file number if they don't provide you the actual findings themselves.
Okay. So Betsy, I think this one is for you. We use a fulfillment company for our closing docs. Is this something I'll still need to do?
Yeah, well, if you're for loans delivered with a note date on or after September 25th, and it's a conventional loan, and you're delivering to Fannie Mae, it will require a UCD file. So if you're, excuse me. So all the loans that are delivered with that note date on or after 9/25 and they're conventional will require a UCD.
Okay. So here's a technical question. I've been unable to determine how to avoid the warning regarding license identifier URI for selling listing agent. I've entered the license number for buying agent company, selling agent, and selling agent company, but continue to receive warnings. Do we know how to resolve that issue?
And that's for the LEI? Is it what the question, on the question?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
Regarding the license identifier URI for seller listing agent.
I can say from Fannie Mae, those are warning messages, so you can bypass that information, but I'm not sure if there's a place in your system, Greg, where you would put that information.
We'll take that one offline, and we'll be providing answers to a lot of these questions that we're not able to address personally today. So that may be one we need to do a little research on.
And if I can say, if you do get an error in the Fannie Mae UCD collection solution and you need help resolving it, we have, 3 ways or 3 methods that you can reach out to us. We have a mailbox, and this is in most of our documentation out there. It's ucd@fanniemae.com. You can also call the 800-2 Fannie number, or you can reach out to your Fannie Mae representative.
Oh, good, because we had several questions regarding that.
And you can also attend one of the Fannie Mae webinars, which we are running through probably through mid-November. They're going to be weekly, so if you haven't attended one, we are having one, I believe, next Thursday. It's Tuesday or Thursday, but again, that resource page, if you go there, it lists all the webinars.
Excellent. Here's a question. The UCD is required to show the date issued for the license identifier owner URI. How do I correct this in Point for the XML?
That one I'll have to get an answer on for you.
Okay.
I haven't seen that come up.
Okay.
And we will, guys, right quick, there are a number of different errors that have been that we have seen. Most of them are the errors that you'll see in point are items that just aren't input in the right locations. And we are in the process of putting together a KB article with the errors during the UCD submission. And each one of those will have a step-by-step guidance on how to correct these issues that you guys may come across.
Great information. Thank you. So if a loan is not saleable to Fannie and Freddie, or if we port all loans, is UCD compliance required?
From the Fannie Mae side, if you're not going to deliver us the loan, you don't have to upload a UCD file. We'll say that the UCD is just for conventional loans, so that you do not need to send a UCD for a government loan. However, if you do send a UCD for a government loan, you'll need to refer back to our quick guide on the case file ID, because there's some specific instructions that you will need to do for loan delivery.
Great. This is if you do a revised closing disclosure after closing, how would you upload this to Fannie?
Okay, so the file that you are going to be uploading to Fannie needs to be the final closing disclosure. So, and where'd it go? I just went blank for a minute. On the additional data, or not the additional data, I'm sorry, the interfaces on the UCD closing set, we would need to remove the one that we had already uploaded. We need to make sure that the item that we're uploading on the interfaces UCD screen is going to be the final. So you want to make sure that you just remove the one that was incorrect and reinsert the correct one before exporting to Fannie.
Okay, thank you. This person says we're having an issue.
I've seen a couple of questions, and I just wanted to make a clarification. So if you are if you're a Fannie Mae seller, that means that you directly sell loans to Fannie Mae, so through the loan delivery system. Now, if you're a non-seller, or another word for it we use is correspondent, you sell loans to an aggregator, and then the aggregator is considered then a Fannie Mae seller, and then they would sell us the loan. So the requirement would be for the non-sellers is you definitely have to talk to your aggregators about what their requirement is for you for UCD. So they may want you to upload the UCD file, and then they may just ask you for a copy of the UCD findings report, and that would give them the case file ID and that it was successful. Or they may ask you to use the UCD transfer capability, so then you could transfer the data to them. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified.
Excellent. Yes, and as presenters, Ryan and Betsy, if you see questions that I'm missing, please go ahead and address those as we're walking through these.
Sure. One of them that I'm looking at right now, Patrice, it was, when we were talking about storing one file and choosing pages for the closing disclosure, pages 1 through 5, do we need to include the payoffs and payments section? So if you guys have a payoff and payment that you guys are doing for that particular purchase, maybe there's some debts that are needing to be paid off, yes, by all means, go ahead and add that in there. A lot of times you're going to have purchases where you don't have to pay anything off. You're just going to grab documents 1 through 5. But if you do have where you are paying items off and adjustments on there, then definitely grab that form and add that in there.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. So I'm having a question, is there a time requirement from the time of closing to uploading the UCD?
So from Fannie Mae, it must be delivered prior to delivery of the loan. So you could, technically go in and upload the UCD file and then go and then get into, get your successful submission and then go into loan delivery and deliver the file same day. There's really no time issue.
Okay, and this is a slightly different take on that question. Is there a set time period that the UCD transfer has to take place after purchase from our investor?
No, that would be something that you would have
on the
to.
Investor, right?
Yeah, that's going to depend on your investor.
Okie doke. Ryan, are you seeing some questions that particularly you would like to answer?
Yeah, I had one pop up where they're saying that do we need to manually move over the case number in Point from our DU findings over to the UCD case number file number? No, you do not. So when you are filling in, or when you run DU and the case number auto files in from DU or DO, then you're done. You don't have to delete it and move it over to the UCD case number section, because it's all mapped to read the right way for you guys.
Okay, I see a good question.
Oh, good.
So just to clarify, somebody's asking on a purchase transaction, do they just need to send the borrower disclosure? And the answer to that is yes, we just need the borrower.
So here's another question. If I use a fulfillment center and they prepare my closing disclosures, how do I get the XML file if it's not being generated in Point?
So from there, you would want to save it as a PDF to your computer, and you can actually upload that PDF version of the closing disclosure into your document management tool and name it like closing disclosure standard, alternative, or borrower only. Because when you click add in the document management tool, it does give you the option to upload from your computer or from a Point generated form. So you'll want to make sure that it is uploaded as a PDF into the document management tool. I did see another question in here that had to do with what version of Point are we looking at right now. Guys, right now I'm looking at 9.6, and 9.6 is the most updated version of Point that we have, and a lot of the operations side of everyone that's using Point wants to make sure that you are constantly updating the system with us as we go along, because that way it's going to ensure that you're the most compliant as possible as we do our upgrades.
Correct. So all of the things that we are talking about and showing are in 9.6. We also encourage all of our users that after you have downloaded a new version, that you also watch in Tuesday Tips, and as we have that you close Point after you've downloaded and reopen, so that any updates, that you do that regularly, that any updates that may be happening in between releases are applied to your computers. Here's a question. Do Calyx accounts need any added functionality to carry out the UCD process, or is it part of the standard subscription? So it is part of the most current releases. As long as you're staying up on releases, it is part of that release. There's nothing additional. And there's still a little confusion. Where's the joint FAQ link in Fannie to figure out the licensing authority and the URL?
So if you go, let me see, I think I sent it, if somebody wants to send it out. If you're on the regular UCD page, the UCD collection page, right in that top blue box, it says visit the uniform closing data set. It'll take you right there. And then from there, you're going to want to look at the FAQs. And then also it is Appendix E, which is the implementation guide. I think between those two documents, that will be very helpful. And of course, and if it's not answering all your questions, feel free to just send an email to the UCD@fanniemae.com mailbox.
All right, Patrice, I did see one with a client asking what the difference was between the closing disclosure standard and borrower only. So the standard closing disclosure, guys, will have both the borrower and seller information on the closing disclosure. So some clients do not like the seller transaction populating on their closing disclosure. So the borrower only closing disclosure was created. So it's borrower only information. So you won't see seller proceeds or any of the credits or anything of that nature on that closing disclosure.
Okay. Here's
okay,
a
I
question.
found one.
Oh, okay, Bessie, sure, go ahead.
I found a good one. So when we're talking about the 9/25 date, that is the note date. So the UCD is required, for any loans delivered with a note date of on or after 9/25.
Excellent. So here's a question, Ryan. How do I input my company LEI in Point and create a ULI?
Let me see. That is on. So the legal entity identifier, the LEI, is actually going to be on your track HMDA reporting 2018 screen that's in Point. And in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the legal entity identifier, the LEI space is enabled for you to type that number in there for your number. Now, to generate the ULI, that's going to be a combination of your lender case number, the LEI, and a 2-digit identifier on there. So that'll automatically calculate your or populate your ULI on that screen for you.
Great. And you had another question you had identified?
Yeah, it looks like we had one individual try to go ahead and save the file with the .xml, but when they saw the file on their screen, it does get rid of the .xml extension, and that is correct. You will not see the .xml extension when you're looking at the actual file. So when you go into Fannie's website and you grab the file, it's already going to be saved in that .xml format for you. So you won't, again, you will not see the .xml formatting on the actual document itself.
Great. So here's one. Is there a list of error codes available to know what they mean?
Yes, if you go...
Oh, go ahead, Betsy.
Okay, I was going to say, we have our edit message feedback, which is located on our webpage. That will give you all of our errors with the corresponding data points and the severity.
Awesome. We also will have in our knowledge base section of Point, it'll be KB Article 6312, and that we are going to be updating the error messages with the way to correct the errors as they do become available for us.
Excellent. Here's a question. Is the UCD required on FHA loans?
For Fannie Mae, no. UCD is only required on conventional loans. Yep, and that's Fannie Mae only. Yep.
Excellent.
And going back to the LEI number, populating the LEI from a master template, we actually have a knowledge base article for you guys, and that article number is 1500. So that'll help give you step-by-step instructions on how to walk through and input that information together in Point.
Excellent. And there was a question, they'd hoped to see an example of uploading the CD to Fannie. However, we don't have credentials, and therefore that will not be happening on the webinar today.
And to piggyback on that, we do have a tutorial on that on our webpage under the on-demand e-learning that you could watch. But our webinars, we do the demo of uploading the file, and we also demo the transfer of a file.
Very good. We are a credit union that holds a position on our loans on our portfolio, not selling them to an investor or to Fannie. Are those loans required to be submitted?
Again, if you're not delivering the loan to Fannie Mae, you would not upload a UCD. Okay. And just to state, you can upload, even if the loan doesn't ultimately get delivered to us, you can upload a UCD if you want. It doesn't, it's just like DU. If it's not delivered to us, it's not delivered to us, but you can upload it.
And here's one. What is the difference between standard and borrower-only closing disclosure?
That one we've answered just a little while ago. That, again, guys, is where the standard is the closing disclosure that will have both your borrower and your seller transaction pieces of that loan closing on there with their credits, their adjustments, what the seller's receiving at the end of the day. The borrower only will be just that, borrower only transaction information. It will not have any of the seller transaction. The seller will have a separate closing disclosure when they go to the table.
So here's a question. How can I tell in Fannie Mae's website if I am a seller or non-seller to Fannie?
Well, if you use loan delivery, you would be a Fannie Mae seller. But if you have more questions on that, I suggest you just call the 800 number or shoot us an email to the mailbox. Again, it's ucd@fanniemae.com, and we can help you with that.
Excellent. So we are just about to run out of time. We have about a minute. Are there any questions, Ryan, that you particularly are able to address right now, or final comments that you might have, Betsy? And then any of the questions we've been unable to answer today due to time or need to do more research, there will be a Q&A that will be sent out to all the participants once we get those answered shortly. And you will have a recording of the webinar as well.
Okay, great. Just somebody's asking, what is the 800 number? It's 800-2-FANNIE, the number 2 Fannie.
And guys, if you're out there and you do see an error message and it's something that's not making sense to you and you're in your file, you can always in Point go to your help icon at the top of the screen. You'll go down to support online, and there's a tab for contact us at the bottom that will open up. And when that does open, it'll take you to another screen to contact our support and training staff here. That number for you to contact support is 800-342-2599. And the other way, if you guys, I know we've come in and we've revamped our support team to where our calls are extremely low wait times right now. But for those that just would rather just send an email off, you can always email support@calixsoftware.com, and you will get a response extremely quick on that as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much both to Ryan and Betsy for your excellent presentations, as well as answering all of the questions for our folks. So thank you all for joining us today. We will let you know once the recording's posted and provided the Q&A, and hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.